All right, everyone. Hello, my name is Karthik. I'm from India. I run the India program for Fish Welfare Initiative. And I just wanted to take you through, today I wanted to take you through the lives of fish, basically. You must all be wondering why fish welfare, right? I mean, there's so many problems in the world. Why did we pick fish welfare? Well, to start with, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about India, basically. Just wanted to start there. India is a country where we do have laws connected to animal welfare. We do have, as you can see, we do have judges who care very deeply about animal welfare in general. But we don't see a lot of that being practiced in the farms. Especially farmed animal welfare is a really difficult thing to achieve in the country, despite a lot of policy existing. So in short, implementation failures, right? Very familiar scenario to Asia. So how do we create a better world for animals? Well, for us, one of the most neglected parts of the animal welfare space was here. As you can see, we have 10 billion farm fish around the world, and about 400 billion farm shrimp. And India is the second largest producer of both those animals. And that's why it was very important for us to work in India, especially in this context with fish. So vast majority of the animals that require our help are in fact aquatic. So, and Asia has most of these animals. I think that's why I think this is a very important gathering, for us to be thinking more deeply about this stuff. All right, I'll come to the why should we care about fish stuff now. Well, fish are fairly sentient animals. I think we have plenty of research at this point to actually say that with a lot of confidence. Confidence to a point where whenever people ask me, recently someone asked me, when we were trying to partner with the university, the head of the university asked me, it's like, do fish feel pain? And I was like, why do you think fish don't feel pain? That's the level of confidence I think we have when it comes to research. Fish don't just feel pain, they can recognize faces. They have complex ability to communicate with each other. They have the ability to think, introspect, analyze, and remember things. They have very complex social lives, and it's very clear. There's lots of evidence that fish can feel pain. There's just no doubt at this point. We should have no doubts at this point that fish feel pain. All right, so this is a little anecdote from the ground, basically. The farmers who we work with on the ground all tell me the same thing. The worker who feeds the fish is very well recognized. He's not just recognized by his face, he's recognized by his movements. Fish know when that person walks on the dikes of the pond, they know that they recognize him. They come to the dikes to greet him. They know their feeding time. They have a very good sense of all these things. And all these farmers know that. I mean, farmer after farmer has expressed the same little anecdote, basically. When we ask them, do you think fish welfare is important? That's the question we ask them. Do you think fish welfare is important? And they say, yeah, obviously it's important. They certainly feel quite a bit of, they are very intelligent. They know all these things, basically. They tell me a lot more. But, despite, fish being such complex and sentient animals, their treatment is not reflecting that. And that's where our work comes in. I want to take you through a journey now, right? I want to show you the life cycle, the entire life of a fish in a farm system, right? Most of us think that when we think about where our fish come from. Not true, actually. They come from places like that mostly, right? And this is where it all starts. This is us. This is my team visiting a hatchery in Andhra Pradesh. Now that little pond right there, that little thing right there, that's where the parent fish are kept, right? Now, normally in nature, this particular species, that's Indian major carp, this particular species breeds once a year in nature. They're forced to breed 8 or 7 times a year, basically, in these conditions. And not only is that harmful for the fish, it's harmful for the progeny as well. Down the road, the young fish who are born this way during the second cycle or the third cycle or any of the cycles that continue have a lot of complications, as you can imagine. Now, from this system, they're moved to this system. Can you play the video, please? The first video. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the first time I saw them. These are hatchlings. These are new hatchlings. And I was really amazed when I saw them. I think there's 1 billion of those in that circular vat that you've seen, and about 80% of them die because of the practices that I talked about earlier. And then we move on to the nurseries. That's not a video. Sorry, you can go back. Sorry, I have a lot of videos. I wanted to showcase these things. So that's when they go to the nurseries. You can see that it's a system like that, basically, and they're sold roughly when they get to that size. And in these systems, this is usually how it is. Can you guess what's wrong with those two ponds? Those two are awful places to be keeping fish, basically. We don't recognize that easily, right? This water is too clear. Yeah, this water, it's contaminated, it's too clear, there's not enough phytoplankton in there. They don't, fish have, as I said, complex lives, right? They interact with the pond ecosystem. Most of what they feed on is plankton and, the species that we mostly farm in India, they feed on plankton and phytoplankton and zooplankton, basically. That is that's the equivalent of a barren, barren thing, a barren construction for infrastructure, for fish, basically. The other one is also very similar. It's brown, it's muddy. They can't see anything in there, right? So these are usually how these nurseries are, basically. And you can imagine, this isn't working for some reason. Can you click on that once? Yeah. Yeah, it should work now. Yeah. So nurseries like these ones experience very high mortalities, basically. Somewhere between 50 and 70% of the fish that are kept in them die as a result of, as you can see, practices. And a whole bunch die during capture, and another bunch die during transportation. Transportation-related deaths are fairly heavy. And then they reach the grow-out system. Please play the second video. And once they reach the grow-out system, these are fairly common things you will see. Our staff has been seeing this sort of behavior: air gulping, disease and parasite infestations, tail flapping. They can't breathe in those systems. That's they have one issue or the other. Parasites could cause this behavior. these are very common sights once they reach the last stage, basically. And while, it's a luck, if the fish is lucky, it will live in an extensive system, like the one you see over there, where the stocking densities are fairly low by farming standards. But if it's unlucky, you will see it in one of these intensive systems where the stocking densities are alarmingly high. You can see the comparison here. It could go up from 9,000 fish per hectare to 60,000 fish per hectare. So it's basically the luck of that individual fish, which system it ends up in. You can see that this system has aerators because it often requires them, and these aerators are never switched on properly. The Indian government subsidizes electricity, so the electricity is only available during the night usually. But fish need those aerators to be switched on right before sunrise and right before sunset, basically, to ensure that the oxygen levels are kept intact. But no one can do that, and no one intends to do that. So those aerators are useless. Basically, they're just decoration. But farmers have this mindset that somehow they're going to change something for their practice because they're practicing an intensive form of thing. And then we come to harvesting trauma. As you can see, fish are harvested in multiple ways. This is a flood. So during the flood, I was hoping that all these fish would escape, but no. You can see that there's a lot of opportunistic people waiting to catch them. That's a new innovation in harvesting. It's kind of a vacuum-driven harvest system that's being experimented on. And then finally, after being harvested, they're kept the boxes are piled together in that way, and they're kept that way. The problem with that is, quite simply put, can't. Yeah, can you play the video, please? They can be like that they can be struggling like that for anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour, basically, without dying. Struggling to breathe, gasping for air. They're just kept that way. And then they reach the market. Can you play the next video? And they're kept in this grotesque mockery of anything. I mean, that's how they're kept. They constantly sprinkle water on. You can see that their mouths have turned red from the stress involved with existing that way. But that's how they're displayed in the market. Yeah, last video, yeah. Let's just play that. Yeah, that's it. And this is another form in which they're slaughtered in the market, and I believe this is the worst. This is how they're kept. They're still alive, you can see that. And while they're still alive, that's a wooden implement with nails attached to it, and they're descaled alive. I think one of the important things to recognize here is we know that fish are complex beings now, but none of the treatment during their life reflects any of that. At every stage, we're treating them as though they're expendable. In the early life stages, we let big numbers of them die. we're impregnating them in forms that is inconceivable in any other animal, basically. This is one of the reasons. This is what neglect does to a system. When neglect of different kinds culminates, this is what it creates. So, as we know very little about fish. We just probably saw these kind of things for the first time, saw this life cycle for the first time, basically. Now, how do we change this, right? In a country like India, change has to come from the ground up, right? So we directly work with farmers for making sure that change happens. A lot of farmers don't know, just like us, a lot of farmers don't know what it means to care for their fish. And they're fairly eager to learn more, basically. And where there's possibility for them to act, I've always seen behavior and willingness to act. And we take advantage of that. We use various training programs designed to basically work with local farmers, done in their languages, done with people that they recognize and value, and people who have legitimacy on the ground. And then we work with them fairly closely. That's our program coordinator, Chandu, who's also a fish farmer himself from that location. Because of him, we've been able to interact with about 50 farmers in that location fairly easily. People know him, people trust him, and because he's working with us, they trust us. And this is the sort of advocacy that has really worked out for us. And why do we do this? How much scale can we reach by doing stuff like this, right? I believe that there's a possibility to scale, but now, we need to be looking at understanding fish in the organization, right? For that reason, our process right now is to understand. We're working with these farmers to understand what fish welfare means. Because fish welfare is not just what's going wrong with the animal, but it's about what's going wrong with the animal because of the humans caring for them. And because it's between those 2 points, for us, it's important to know how neglect shapes itself on the ground. And that is why we work with farmers and we're trying to understand, we built our research program around that. And we do care about impacting things while we're still doing this process, because there's things that we know. We know that fish need oxygen. We know that fish need balanced pH. We know how to achieve those goals, basically. With the things that we do know, whenever we've been able to have an impact, we've been able to help over 1.6 million fish, and I believe that we've reached great cost effectiveness for this stage in our process, basically, right? So we're considering ourselves both a research and an impact-based organization. Neither of the approaches singularly will work, and that's, I think, a big part of our grassroots work. We're also working with the governments, advocating for policy change, pairing welfare with sustainability goals, and at the end of the day, we're also seeking endorsement from research entities within our government to kind of advocate for the same things we're advocating for. With all that said, if you want to reach out to us and know more about fish welfare, please write to us. I'm happy to take any questions if you have them, but I don't think we have that much time, but maybe one question, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Karthik. We will now open for Q&A session.
Right. We're not that worried about the consumer side just yet. I feel like corporate engagement is not going to work for fish, and we'll have to do a very different model of consumer engagement. The corporate intake of fish is extremely low in India, just like it is for eggs and chicken. So our focus is to develop our standard and work directly with producers at this point in time. But probably in the future, the idea is to kind of do that.
Is there any more question for the floor?
Yeah, just one question here. So basically, see, when you say that we are working for fish welfare, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we saw a video where these animals were killed, like they were kept alive until
Mm-hmm.
they are killed, right?
Right.
So the steps that you are taking right now,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything that focuses on that, or
Mm.
basically what we are trying to do? Are we trying to save those fishes,
Mm.
or are we trying to find out less cruel way to kill them, or what exactly is it?
Slaughter is going to be a very difficult question to answer in India. But what we have done is that we've worked with a few markets in Delhi, and we've set up posters in these markets where good practices for keeping live fish are kind of displayed very prominently in those stalls, basically. So even the consumer can see if the vendor has set it up. So we worked with the market association to get this process underway. Now, obviously, we're still, having some difficulties establishing that, but that is one program that we've done to address some of this stuff, basically. But having said that, slaughter, I think, is going to be a very difficult question to answer, because every time a farmer harvests, that's where most of the fish die. 98% of the fish die after they've been harvested from the pond, right? And most of the time, they die because of asphyxiation. And stunning equipment is expensive for Indian farmers. But some companies, like you've seen that mechanical harvester, some companies are setting those up. Probably what we could be doing in the future, if more and more of these systems get established, is to attach a stunner to that. But that machine is very unique. I think it has only harvested 3 farms so far since it's been bought. So we will need to wait and see how the developments go before we can imagine what what kind of ethical slaughter practices can be established. But there's so much more that can be done at earlier stages that's very much possible right now.
Thank you. Just one thing, what I understand from this is we are just trying to make the life of fish better
Yeah.
when they have been produced. But
Yeah.
as you said, 98% of fishes are dying
Mhm.
while they have been producing.
Yeah.
But ultimately, 100% of the fishes are going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is next to that.
Mhm.
Is your organization trying to protect those fish means by educating the young children to go towards the vegetarianism,
Mhm.
stop eating the fish? Is it your plan or something in future, or are you going on that?
No, we focus on we're a farm and animal welfare organization. We focus on that work. That's where our skills lie, basically. But, as individuals, we do a lot of work that promotes veganism in the country and stuff. No. It's a welfare-based organization, and that's the focus of the organization, basically, farm and animal welfare.